I still remember the morning I left home, not because it was peaceful or full of blessings, but because of the silence. That kind of silence that sits in the air like a warning, heavy and cold, pressing against your chest. My name is Takeshi, and ever since I was a child, I dreamed of walking the path of the samurai. Not for fame, not for glory. I didn't want crowds cheering my name or people bowing when I passed. I just wanted one thing: honor. A life with meaning. A reason to believe I was more than the small walls of my home. That morning, I packed my few clothes, tied the cloth around my waist, and stepped into the main room. My family was there. My mother, my father, my younger brother. No one spoke. No, good luck. No, we're proud of you. Not even a soft, take care. Just quiet breathing and eyes I could not read. I told myself they were worried. Maybe they didn't want me to get hurt. Maybe they were afraid I would fail. I tried to fill their silence with my own excuses because it was easier than accepting the truth that they didn't believe in the path I'd chosen. "I'll send letters," I said, forcing a small smile. "I'll come back stronger." My mother's hands were folded tightly in front of her. My father's jaw was clenched. My brother looked away. I bowed to them anyway. Then I turned and stepped out of the house. The morning air was cool and fresh. The sky, though I barely looked up at it, felt wide and open, as if it was inviting me forward. My heart beat fast, but not with fear, with hope, with excitement, with that wild, dangerous feeling that comes when your life is finally beginning. I didn't know that the same people staying silent behind me were already planning the day my world would go dark. The Samurai Academy was nothing like home. There, every step had weight. Every command had purpose. Every mistake had a consequence. And for the first time in my life, I welcomed that. I needed it. We woke before sunrise. We trained until our muscles screamed. We repeated basic stances over and over until our legs shook and sweat ran down our backs. Some boys complained, some quit, some laughed it off. I stayed. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the most talented. But I had something else. A stubborn, burning will that wouldn't let me stop. While others slept, I stayed behind in the training yard. My hands wrapped around the wooden sword until my knuckles hurt. I swung until my shoulders burned. I repeated movements again and again until I could feel them even with my eyes closed. One of the instructors walked past me one night when I was still practicing. He stopped, watched me quietly, then said, "Why are you still here?" "Because I'm not good enough yet," I answered. He was silent for a moment, then replied, "Boys who say that either become great warriors or break themselves." I smiled faintly. "I guess we'll find out." He walked away, but after that, I felt his eyes on me more often. Some of the other students said I was obsessed. Maybe they were right. But obsession was just another word for purpose, and I finally had one. Those months at the academy were the happiest of my life. I felt myself changing, growing, hardening, sharpening. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel trapped. I didn't feel like a burden. I felt like someone who could become something. Maybe that's why I didn't see the shadows forming behind me, didn't hear the whispers, didn't notice that the letters from home stopped coming. 3 months into training, I was called to the head instructor's room. I bowed low when I entered. "Your family has sent a message," he said. A strange flutter moved through my chest. "My family?" "They wish to see you. They say it is important. Important. The word rolled around in my mind. Maybe they were finally proud. Maybe they wanted to apologize for doubting me. I let myself imagine my father clapping my shoulder, my mother smiling with relief, my brother saying, "You did it." The instructor studied my face. "You may go for a short visit. Do not be gone too long." "I'll be back," I told him, stronger than before. I started the walk home full of quiet excitement. The closer I got to the village, the more memories flooded me. Running barefoot as a child, my mother calling me in for dinner, my brother chasing me with a stick, my father's heavy steps after a long day. When I reached the house, the door slid open before I even knocked. My mother rushed forward and grabbed my hands. "Takeshi, you're back." Her voice was warm, too warm. My father appeared behind her, his voice strange when he said, You've grown." My brother even hugged me. He never hugged me. For a moment, I forgot the months of silence, forgot the way they'd looked at me the day I left, forgot everything except the feeling of being wanted again. That night, they prepared a big meal, my favorite dishes. The smell of cooked rice and seasoned vegetables filled the room. We sat together like we used to, but this time they asked about my training, my progress, my instructors. I told them about the academy, about the discipline, about my dreams. "You really seem happy there," my mother said softly. "I am," I answered, smiling. "For the first time, I feel like I know who I'm meant to be." My father was quiet for a long time before he spoke. "Being a samurai is dangerous. Men die young on that path. Families are left alone. You could stay here, find safer work." I shook my head. I can't go back to the old life now. Not now. I've come too far. I thought he just didn't understand. I didn't realize then that he understood too well. And that was exactly why he wanted to stop me. We kept talking, laughing even. My mother kept putting food in my bowl. "Eat more," she said. "You need strength." I ate until I was full. We talked until the night was deep and still. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged with them again. Then slowly, something changed. A heaviness formed behind my eyes, a dull throb in my head. My vision blurred just a little, like there was a thin layer of fog between me and the world. "I think I'm more tired than I thought," I said with a weak laugh. "You've been training very hard," my mother replied quickly. "You should rest." My father helped me stand. My legs felt heavier than they should. The floor tilted strangely beneath my feet. I lay down on my old mat. The room spun slightly, just enough to make my stomach twist. I closed my eyes, telling myself it was nothing, just exhaustion, just too much training, just the long walk home. But then, even with my eyes closed, the darkness grew deeper. The shapes of the room faded. The faint light from outside melted away. The soft outline of the door disappeared. I tried to open my eyes again. The darkness stayed. I blinked once, twice, 3 times, rubbed at my eyelids. Nothing changed. The ache behind my eyes sharpened. My stomach turned. My heart began to race. I sat up too quickly, and the world around me lurched. My hands reached out, but instead of finding the door or the walls, they slapped at empty air. "Mother?" I whispered. My voice came out thinner than I wanted. "Father?" Footsteps rushed towards me. Hands grabbed my shoulders, pushed me gently back down. "Takeshi, you're okay," my mother said. Her voice shook. What's happening? I breathed. Why can't I see? My father's voice cut in, deep and forced. You're just exhausted. Close your eyes, rest. It'll pass by morning. I tried to believe him. I wanted to believe him. But even with my eyes closed, even with my body pressed against the mat, my heart knew something was wrong. My head pulsed. My vision, or what I had left of it, flickered. It felt like someone was slowly blowing out candles inside my skull, one by one. The last thing I remember seeing was a faint blur of light where the window should have been. Then it disappeared. Then his hand lightly touched my arm. Not holding, just guiding. Feel the ground, he said. Not with your eyes, with your feet. I focused on the floor under me. It was uneven in tiny ways I had never noticed before. A board raised slightly here, a groove forming there. I slowly straightened my back. There, he said. You see, you are standing. I'm only standing because you helped me, I muttered. No, he replied. I offered a hand. You chose to rise. I stood there, unsteady but upright. For the first time since the darkness took my sight, I felt something other than grief. I felt a small, fragile seed of defiance. Master Riku's voice lowered. They took your eyes, Takeshi. They tried to take your future. Now you must decide if they get your spirit too. I clenched my jaw. No, I whispered. They can't have that. Good, he said, because if you truly believe that, then your training is not over. It is changing. What can a blind boy train for? I asked bitterly. You'll find out if you're willing to fight for it. I didn't answer right away. My mind was full of fear, confusion, anger, and quiet hope, all tangled together. Finally, I nodded. I am, I said. I'm willing. Then tomorrow, Master Riku said, we begin. And for the first time since the darkness swallowed my world, I felt like my story hadn't ended. It had just taken a different path. Master Riku returned the next morning, before the sun fully rose. I recognized him by the controlled rhythm of his footsteps, measured, calm, like someone who always knew exactly where he was going. Takeshi, he called softly, come outside. I moved slowly, one hand brushing the wall, the other hovering slightly ahead of me. I could feel my mother stare through the doorway, the guilt dripping from her silence like water from a cracked jar. My father pretended to repair something in the corner, but his breathing was off, uneven, nervous. I stepped outside. Master Riku stood a few paces away. I could sense his presence before he spoke, a steady warmth in the darkness. Touch the ground with your feet. Tell me what you feel. I took a slow breath and let my toes press into the earth. At first, all I felt was dirt and small stones. Then, as the seconds passed, I felt something else, a faint vibration, the coolness of the soil, the softness of grass bending under my weight. I feel the earth, I said quietly. You feel more than that, he corrected gently. You feel stability, balance, the world beneath you holding your weight. This is your foundation. He stepped closer. Now walk toward me. I'll fall, I said. Then fall forward, not backward. Warriors fall toward what they want, not away from it. I swallowed hard and took a step. The world felt unstable for a moment. My weight shifted too fast and I almost stumbled, but Master Rico's voice cut through the panic. Slow your breath. Listen to the air. It speaks before your feet do. I breathed in. The air brushed my skin from one direction, faint, soft, a whisper on the right. I stepped toward it and realized it had been him shifting slightly to guide me. Again, he said. Step by step, I moved forward, not smoothly, not confidently, but steadily. When I reached him, he placed something in my hand. What is this? I asked, brushing my fingers across the object. It's a cup, he said. What do you feel? It's just a cup. No, he said firmly. Nothing in this world is just anything. Feel again. I let my fingers trace the rim. There were tiny grooves carved along one side, a small crack near the bottom, a slight dip where the woodworker's knife must have faltered. There, he said softly, that is seeing without sight. I didn't understand it fully yet, but something in his voice made me believe I could. He led me to the small garden behind the house. The wind brushed the leaves, each movement creating a different pattern of sound. The soft flutter of a small branch, the heavier sway of a thicker one, the rustle of grass bending under a breeze. Tell me what you hear, he said. I frowned, listening harder. I hear the wind, the leaves, a bird somewhere far? No, he interrupted. You're naming sounds, not feeling them. I paused, letting the sounds wash over me. That's when I realized something. Each sound had direction, distance, weight. The leaves on my left rustled faster. The wind behind me brushed gently. The bird's song was high and light, perched on something thin. I hear where they are, I said in a quiet voice. Yes, because sound has location. You must follow it. Training continued for hours that day. I stumbled many times, fell twice, but every time I pushed myself up again. Not because I was strong, but because I was angry, hurt, betrayed. If my family thought poisoning me would keep me from rising, they didn't understand what they had awakened. By the time the sun set, I was exhausted. But something had changed. The world wasn't just darkness anymore. It was a different kind of map, one I had to learn with every inch of my skin. That night, my family sat in silence at dinner. My mother placed food in front of me, hands shaking. My father didn't speak a word. My brother barely breathed. They were afraid. Not of what they did, of what I was becoming. After dinner, as I sat quietly in my room, I overheard them talking. He's getting stronger, my father whispered. Faster than before. We shouldn't have let that old man train him, my brother hissed. If the Lord finds out... My mother sobbed softly. He's our son. We can't control what he becomes. My father responded with a voice I didn't recognize, one full of fear. If he keeps going, the Lord will think we helped him, and if that happens, we're finished. I closed my jaw tightly. They didn't regret what they'd done. They didn't mourn the dream they stole. They only feared the consequences of my strength. I lay on my mat with the wooden sword Master Riku had given me rusting beside my arm. I ran my fingers along its smooth surface and whispered to myself, if they fear me, then let them fear the right thing. The days that followed were harder. Master Riku pushed me deeper than I ever imagined. He made me walk barefoot across the garden while blindfolded, though the blindfold was meaningless now. He made me tap my foot lightly and feel how the vibrations traveled through the ground. He made me stand still for long minutes and focus on the warmth of sunlight shifting across my skin. One morning, he placed a staff in my hands. I can't use this, I said. Yes, you can. I'm blind, I argued. You are blind only if you choose to be. I held the staff tightly, unsure. Swing, he commanded. I swung, clumsy, weak, struggling. Again. I swung again. Hours passed. Sweat dripped into the cracks of my fingers. My arms burned. My shoulders ached. But something in the repetition began to change me. My movements slowly became smoother, my breaths steadier, my senses sharper. Takashi, Master Riku said after a long silence, you have lost your sight, but gained what most warriors never achieve. What's that? I asked breathlessly. Unbreakable will. That evening, when I returned home, my brother spoke first. You're moving differently. He didn't say it with admiration. He said it with fear. My mother stepped closer. Takashi, maybe you should rest more. You don't need to push yourself so hard. Yes, my father added quickly. It's dangerous for someone in your condition. Condition. As if I were sick, broken, damaged goods. I didn't react. I didn't argue. I simply said, I know what I'm doing. The fear in their silence told me they didn't believe that. But I did. That night, something happened that changed everything. As I stood outside to feel the evening air, I sensed someone else in the garden. Not my family, not Master Riku. Someone else. A presence so faint, so careful, that an ordinary person wouldn't have noticed. A spy. Someone watching me. I pretended not to sense him. I went back inside, but my mind was racing. The Lord. He must have heard something. Or sensed something. Someone wanted to see how far I'd come. As I lay in my room, the darkness felt less like a prison and more like a cloak. I pressed my fingertips to the floor, feeling the vibrations from outside. Whispers. Footsteps. Someone running away. The shadows were moving, and they were moving because of me. I whispered quietly into the night. You took my sight. You tried to take my destiny. But you didn't take my purpose. Tomorrow, Master Riku would return. Tomorrow, I would get stronger. And tomorrow, whoever lurked in the shadows would learn exactly what I was becoming. The next morning, the air carried a strange weight, like the world itself was holding its breath. I stepped out of the house slowly, listening to the way the ground shifted under my feet. Something felt different. Not dangerous, but expectant, like the day was waiting for me to discover something important. Master Riku approached with footsteps that were neither rushed nor calm. They carried a certain tension, as if he had been awake long before sunrise, thinking. Takeshi, he said quietly, today's training will not be easy. I nodded. None of it has been easy. That's true, he replied, but today you will face something new. He led me to a deeper part of the forest, farther than we had ever gone before. The air was cooler here, heavier with the scent of moss and old trees. The ground felt softer beneath my feet, padded with fallen leaves and hidden roots. "Where are we?" I asked. "You are in a place where warriors learn to hear the world, a place I once trained men who had lost everything, men who needed to rebuild themselves from the inside out." I felt the faint echo of space around me. The forest was open in places and closed in others, creating pockets of silence and sound. Master Riku moved somewhere behind me. "Your senses must sharpen more than ever now. Last night, someone came to your home." "I know," I said quietly. I felt him. "Then you understand that the shadows are no longer content to watch. They will come again." I tightened my grip on the wooden staff he had given me. He must have heard my breath change because he added, "And they won't come with wooden blades." I felt a chill, but it wasn't fear. It was determination settling into my bones. Master Riku placed several objects on the ground around me. Small wooden containers, sticks, stones, items that made different sounds when touched. "Your task is simple," he said. "Survive the world I create." He stepped back. Then the world shifted. Something rolled across the ground near my foot. I sidestepped instinctively. A faint whistle of air brushed near my ear. I ducked. Two objects collided behind me. I turned sharply to face the direction of the sound. This wasn't sparring. This wasn't simple awareness. This was chaos, and I was supposed to navigate it blind. Master Riku moved quietly, changing the environment around me. He set things falling. He pushed small branches. He rolled stones toward my feet. Each movement forced me to read the direction, speed, and intention behind every sound. At first, it overwhelmed me. Too many signals at once. My heart raced, my breath quickened. The world spun in 1,000 dark shapes. "Focus," Master Riku said. "Don't fight the sound, follow it." I slowed my breathing and let everything wash over me. I could feel the way each sound touched the air, how far a stone bounced, how a branch bent before snapping back, how footsteps hummed through the earth. I began to move differently, less like a boy stumbling in darkness, more like someone who understood the rhythm of the world. Each shift in the air, each vibration under my feet, every faint echo became a thread guiding me. After a long, exhausting sequence, Master Riku finally said, "Stop." I stood there, breathing hard, sweat cooling on my skin. Something in me had changed. "You're beginning to see," he whispered, "but this is only the beginning." We rested for a moment. The breeze brushed my face, cooler now, carrying the scent of pine. "Takeshi," he said, lowering his voice, "I need to tell you something." I turned toward his voice without hesitation. "It's about your family," he continued. My chest tightened slightly. "What about them?" "You know they didn't act alone. Poison like the one used on you is rare, hard to find, harder to prepare. No simple villager could make it correctly without help." I frowned. "Are you saying someone taught them?" "Someone gave it to them." "Yes, someone with knowledge, someone with influence." His breathing shifted, slightly heavier, almost reluctant. "The man behind the poison," he said finally, "is someone your family fears, someone the entire village fears." I felt a coldness settle in my gut. "The Lord?" Master Riku didn't answer immediately. His silence was enough. "Lord Hoshinaga," a name spoken rarely, a name people whispered only in private. a man whose shadow lingered over everything in the region. My voice came out steady. Why would he want to stop me? For many reasons. Some you'll understand later, some no one speaks of. He moved closer. You must know something, Takeshi. Your grandfather, he was not an ordinary man. The ground beneath me seemed to tilt. My grandfather? I asked quietly. What about him? He was a samurai, a powerful one, a leader, a man who stood against the Lord. My breath hitched. I felt my fingers tighten around the staff. And the Lord feared him, feared his influence, feared his spirit. I swallowed. So this was never about me training. It was about my blood. Yes, he said softly, the Lord fears what you might become. He fears the bloodline you come from. Everything made sense now. The warnings, the poison, the fear in my father's voice, the guilt in my mother's, the strangers spying near my home. The Lord didn't want a boy with dreams of honor. He wanted to erase any trace of the man who once stood against him, my grandfather. And I was the last trace. Master Riku's voice softened. Takeshi, you carry a legacy they tried to bury. I stood there, letting the truth settle into my bones like a fire that refused to go out. When we finished training and walked back toward the village, I felt the air shift. Something was coming. Master Riku felt it too. Takeshi, he said, prepare yourself. The shadows won't wait long. When I reached home, I sensed tension immediately. The weight of fear in my mother's breathing, the stiffness in my father's stance, my brother's shaky steps. They had heard something. Someone had already reported what happened in the forest, or maybe the Lord had sent new instructions, new threats. I stepped inside and said nothing. Their silence was louder than any words. That night, lying on my mat, I replayed everything in my mind. The poison, the training, the spying, the truth about my grandfather. And then one thought rose above all others. They tried to shut down my destiny, but they underestimated the strength that grows in darkness. I pressed my hand to the floor and whispered to myself,
I will uncover everything, every shadow, every lie, every hand behind what was done to me. The darkness around me no longer felt suffocating. It felt like a battlefield I was learning to master. The next morning arrived with the kind of stillness that warns you something is wrong. Even without sight, I could feel it. The village didn't breathe the same way. People walked more carefully. Voices were hushed. Even the wind seemed to move differently, carrying whispers instead of comfort. Master Riku's footsteps approached my home before anyone else dared to step outside. I heard the rhythm instantly, steady but heavier than usual, as if he came carrying something he didn't want to say. Takeshi, he said softly, walk with me. I followed him down the path behind our house. My mother called after us, her voice thin with fear, but she didn't try to stop me. Maybe she knew she had already done enough. Maybe she knew she couldn't protect me anymore, not from the consequences and not from the truth. The morning air tasted different, tighter, sharper. We walked farther into the forest, deeper than usual. The ground shifted from soft dirt to rough roots that curled through the soil like veins. We arrived in a clearing I had never been to before, a place where the air hummed with a strange, quiet power. This, Master Riku said,
is the silent grove. I let my senses stretch outward. The grove felt ancient. The space around me opened wide even though the trees were thick. The ground was cool. The air barely moved. It was a place untouched by the panic of the village. "Why here?" I asked. "Because the village is no longer safe for your training. Some of the Lord's men passed through early this morning." I felt my pulse quicken, though my voice stayed calm. "Were they looking for me?" "Yes," he said. "They asked questions, too many questions." Anger burned under my ribs but didn't rise to my throat. I kept it low, controlled, the way he had taught me. "What do we do now?" I asked. "We train harder," he said. "We sharpen your senses until not even the shadows can hide from you." He placed something in my hand, a wooden sword, but much heavier than the previous one. "This is your next step. Awareness is nothing without strength." I tightened my grip and nodded once. "Begin." He moved around me silently as wind, placing objects around the grove. Wooden sticks, stones, hanging branches. Everything became a potential distraction, a lesson disguised as a hazard. "Listen," he commanded. I listened. A twig snapped somewhere behind me, just slightly. I rotated toward it. A stone rolled near my foot. I stepped aside. A branch swung down from above. I blocked it with the wooden sword, feeling the impact vibrate through my arms. He moved faster. He threw something from my left. I ducked before I even heard it. He tapped the ground with his foot behind me. I spun, blocking a strike I didn't fully understand. Minutes turned into an hour into 2. I lost all sense of time. The world became sound, vibration, air pressure, instinct. I moved with the rhythm Master Riku had been trying to awaken in me since the moment he returned to my life. When he finally called for a stop, I could barely breathe. But I stood tall, sweat cooling on my skin, the wooden sword firm in my hand. "Takeshi," he said with rare pride in his voice, "you are starting to become someone the shadows should fear." The words settled deep inside me like a burning coal. But then his voice shifted, softer, more cautious. "There is something else you must know." I turned toward him fully, sensing the shift in his presence before he even spoke. "The Lord, he did not target you because you wanted to be a samurai. That was merely the excuse." I swallowed hard. "Then why?" Riku hesitated, something he never did unless it truly mattered. "It's because of your grandfather." "I know he opposed the Lord," I said. "You told me." "No," Riku said. "I told you only part of the truth." A strange coldness seeped into my fingers. "What else is there?" "Your grandfather did more than oppose the Lord," he said slowly. "He exposed him." My breath hitched. Exposed him for what? Riku stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "For lies, for corruption, for crimes hidden behind noble titles." My hands tightened on the sword. "And because your grandfather would not kneel, the Lord destroyed his legacy, silenced his name, forced your family into fear, and made sure no one from that bloodline could ever rise again." The world felt like it shifted under me. So when I trained, when I showed strength, the Lord feared I might become him. Riku nodded. "Your grandfather's spirit lives in you, and the Lord recognized it long before you did." Anger rose inside me, not burning wild, not reckless, but deep, controlled, like a blade being forged inside my chest. "What do I do now?" I asked. "First, you protect your spirit, because they will try to break it. And second," I pressed, "second, you uncover the full truth. Every shadow, every lie, every reason they wanted you blind." The air changed around us, quiet, heavy, dark, but not frightening. It felt like destiny. As we walked back toward the village, Riku suddenly stopped. His breath caught slightly. "Takeshi," he whispered, "we're not alone." I halted. I listened. There, far ahead, someone stood between the trees. They didn't move. They didn't breathe loudly. They were trained to stay still. A spy. The pressure of their presence pressed against my senses like a weight. "They're watching you," Riku murmured, "studying you." I inhaled slowly. Let them have it. I'm not hiding. When we finally reached home, the village felt even tighter with fear. People whispered as I passed. They stepped away. Some gasped quietly. Some looked toward the ground. My mother rushed toward me, her hands trembling, touching my arm as if checking for wounds. "Takeshi, the council wants to speak with you," she whispered. I already knew this was coming. The village was preparing for war, not with weapons, but with fear, and decisions made behind closed doors. And whether they meant to or not, they were preparing to decide my fate. I sat on my mat that night, breathing slowly, listening to every sound in the house. My father's worried pacing, my mother's quiet sobs, my brother's muttering under his breath. My world had gone dark long ago, but now I could feel something powerful inside that darkness, something waiting to rise. I whispered softly, "They took my sight to stop me, but they didn't take my purpose." And tomorrow, they would see exactly what that meant. I knew the shadows would return. The night after Master Riku revealed the truth about my grandfather, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the whisper of footsteps outside my home, the echo of someone watching me from a distance. The darkness no longer scared me, it warned me. The next morning, Master Riku's voice carried a calm urgency. "Takeshi, today you train not as someone recovering, but as someone preparing." "Preparing for what?" I asked quietly, though deep inside, I already knew. "For confrontation." His voice lowered. "And one where the Lord will no longer see you as a blind boy, but as the threat he tried to erase." The forest felt different after that night. Quieter, but not empty. Watchful, waiting. Rico trained me harder. He sharpened my instincts, taught me how to feel danger coming before it reached me, how to read breath, step, direction, intention. The silent grove became my battlefield, my sanctuary, and my forge. And then, one evening, as the sun dipped and the world dimmed, another visitor came. Not the Lord's men, not a villager. Akio. His breath trembled as he approached. "Takeshi, something terrible is coming. The Lord's men returned to the village. They asked about you. They're planning something for tonight." I felt the air around me shift, heavy, electric. "I will be ready," I said. Master Rico placed a hand on my shoulder. Remember, strength is nothing without control. Do not strike out of rage. Strike only when purpose demands it. The night came quietly, too quietly. I sat in my room, the wooden sword resting at my side, feeling every vibration through the floor. Footsteps approached, many this time. Slow, calculated, surrounding the house. My family trembled behind the door. The handle turned. I rose to my feet. This time, there was no fear. The shadows came for me. But I was no longer someone they could break. I stepped forward, lifted the wooden sword, and whispered to the darkness. Their mistake was thinking blindness would stop me.